All the way up here with Johann Paul Trump. He was born in the small town of Karlstadt in what is today Germany to a family of wine growers. You may have heard that this man's last name was actually Drumpf, especially if you're a fan of late-night show host John Oliver. This theory is now under scrutiny as the connection is unclear, but in any case, his name derives from the word trumpet, which in turn comes from the word triumph, and now the word Trump has come to mean one-upping. Johann Trump is also the great-grandfather of Henry J. Heinz, founder of the famous ketchup company, through his daughter Charlotte, who married Johann Heinz. Skipping a couple of generations, we come to Friedrich Trump, who is Donald's grandfather and second cousin to the Heinz founder. He came to New York when he was just 16 to escape military duty in Germany in 1885. He worked there as a barber for several years before moving to Seattle in 1891. There, he led a tumultuous but very lucrative career. He bought a restaurant in Seattle, which also served as an illegal brothel, and then he got involved in funding mining operations. This eventually took him to Canada during the Klondike Gold Rush, where he continued to run restaurants and brothels. The government eventually cracked down on prostitution, gambling, and liquor in 1901, and so he left, having already made a small fortune. He returned to Germany very briefly, where he met and proposed to his wife, but by 1902 the two of them were back in New York. And then in 1904 they moved back to Germany on account of his wife's homesickness. But the German officials pieced together that Friedrich had originally left the country to evade military service, and so he and his family were banished from the country. All in all, through his various business ventures, including some real estate, he had amassed a net worth of around $500,000 of today's dollars when he died in 1918 due to a respiratory illness caused by a rampant pandemic, the Spanish flu. He was succeeded by his wife Elizabeth, who grew her late husband's real estate business in a massive way under the name E. Trump & Son, and remained involved in the business until her death in 1966. That son was Fred Trump, who was only 13 when his father died, hence Elizabeth's name being used for the company. When he grew up, he married a Scottish-born woman named Mary Ann MacLeod. By the time the Second World War began, anti-German sentiment was at an all-time high in America, so Fred began telling people he was actually from Swedish descent. That cover story carried over until the 80s and 90s, repeated by his son Donald Trump, though he now admits his paternal line does, in fact, come from Germany. As a landlord, Fred Trump's business dealings often came under scrutiny. In the public eye, Woody Guthrie wrote an unreleased song about him called Old Man Trump, but he also fell under the scrutiny of the government on many occasions. He was investigated for profiteering, code violations, and racial discrimination. A number of people working for him came forward saying they were told discrimination was against the law, but nevertheless they were told, quote, not to rent to blacks. What's more, it's likely that Fred Trump was at one point a member of the Ku Klux Klan, based on his arrest at a 1927 Klan rally in which all 7 arrestees were alleged to be dressed in Klan attire. In 1971, he made his son Donald the president of the Trump Organization, leaving Manhattan to him while Fred focused on other boroughs. But before turning to Fred's children, a brief overview of his siblings. There's Fred's younger brother John, who became a scientist and a professor at MIT, and is the smart uncle Donald Trump sometimes brags about, as well as Donald's aunt Elizabeth Trump, about whom we don't have much information. Fred and his wife Anne had 5 children. The oldest, Mary Ann Trump, was actually involved in politics long before her brother. She was a judge on the Third Circuit of the United States Court of Appeals, appointed by Bill Clinton in 1999, and she served until just last year. Fred Jr. became a pilot, but died in 1981 at the age of 42 of a heart attack as the result of his alcoholism. According to Donald Trump, this was the primary motivator behind his decision to avoid alcohol and cigarettes for the remainder of his life. Fred Jr. had 2 children, Fred III and Mary L. Trump. His daughter Mary is the author of the recently published tell-all book, Too Much and Never Enough. She and her brother both have bad blood with Donald since 1999, after Fred Sr. died and left Fred III and Mary out of his will. The two claimed this was a result of the rest of Fred's children, Donald and his siblings, influencing Fred Sr. in his state of dementia, and they sued. As a result, Donald cut the medical support he had previously promised to Fred III's infant son, who was born with cerebral palsy. Donald's sister Elizabeth worked as an executive at Chase Bank Manhattan and married film producer James Grau. She's currently retired in Florida. Donald's brother Robert currently works as an executive for the Trump Organization. As for Donald Trump himself, you've probably heard enough and formed your own opinions about him, whether as a result of his foreign policy, his stance on policing in America, or his approach to the coronavirus pandemic. He's been married 3 times and has 5 children. His first wife, Ivana Zelníková, was a model born in the Czech Republic. She had 1 marriage previously before she met Donald, and the 2 were married in 1977. They had 3 children together, and she took an active role in the family business. Their first child, Donald Jr., is now 42 years old and working as an executive at the Trump Organization. He married Vanessa Hayden, with whom he had 2 daughters and 3 sons, the oldest of whom is Don III. He and his wife divorced in 2018, and he's now dating former Fox News host Kimberly Guilfoyle. Donald's second child with Ivana is Ivanka Trump, now 38. She too was an executive at the Trump Organization and is now an official advisor to her father in the White House. She has her own line of fashion items and is married to Jared Kushner, with whom she has 1 daughter and 2 sons. And actually, prior to getting married, she converted to Judaism. Jared, too, is now an advisor to the president, though his family also has its roots in New York real estate. His father, Charles, like Trump, is a major figure in the industry, but he also has a string of bad press behind him. He's been found guilty of tax evasion, witness tampering, and illegal contributions to Democrat campaigns, and has served time in federal prison. Jared's paternal grandfather, Joseph, born in Poland, had the last name Berkowitz, but in a rare event in family trees, he took his wife Ray's name of Kushner. She came from a more established family and helped 350 Jews escape via tunnel during World War II. Both are Holocaust survivors. Last of Ivana and Donald's children is Eric Trump, now 36. He is, perhaps unsurprisingly, an executive at the Trump Organization. He's married to a former CBS producer, Laura Younaska, and together they had 2 children. In 1991, Donald's first wife, Ivana, filed for divorce after he began an affair with Marla Maples, and the divorce was granted on the grounds of cruel and inhuman treatment by Donald. She's currently unable to talk about details due to a confidentiality agreement. She married 2 more times, but is currently single and working in the fashion and beauty business. Donald Trump then married Marla Maples, who had also been a model. They have 1 child together, Tiffany Trump, now 26, and currently in law school. Since 2018, she's been dating Michael Boulos, the son and heir of a Nigerian businessman of Lebanese descent. Marla and Donald divorced in 1999 after she was found with a bodyguard under a deserted lifeguard stand at 4 in the morning, though both she and Trump deny she was having an affair. Like Ivana, she is prohibited from speaking about her marriage on account of prenuptial agreements and the terms of her divorce. Donald Trump's current wife, Melania Knauss, now 50, is a former model born in Slovenia and became an American citizen in 2006 after marrying Trump. She is the First Lady of the United States who was not born an American citizen. Excluding, of course, those First Ladies born before America gained its independence. As First Lady, she has focused on advocating against cyberbullying in her Be Best campaign. She and Donald have 1 son, Barron Trump, who is currently 14 years old and is fluent in both English and Slovene. Now, before I go, I want to call attention to this Trump coat of arms. It's based on the coat of arms of Joseph E. Davies, a famous American lawyer and the second U.S. ambassador to the Soviet Union. That may seem like an unusual connection until you consider that Davies married Marjorie Merriweather Post, owner of General Foods and the Post cereal brand. She had previously built Mar-a-Lago in Florida as her mansion, and after she married Davies, the coat of arms was used for the resort. Donald Trump then bought Mar-a-Lago in 1985, keeping the coat of arms and adopting it for his various other businesses. The main differences between his and the original being this extra decoration here, and the word integrity of Davies' coat of arms is replaced with the word Trump. However, since Davies' coat of arms was granted officially by the UK and Trump's wasn't, he has to use a different coat of arms across the pond. And that is the family tree of Donald Trump, the roots of his family and his business. If you're interested in learning the family history of other prominent politicians,